Put your hand up. Tell me where your karate starts from. Archie? Karate starts from the ground. So when we push off of our back leg, we start something off called this kinetic chain. Some people sometimes mistake the word kime to mean tense at the end of your move. So connection, but basically. So when you're moving in your stance, when you're sat in your stance, I'll be saying how you do feel connected. What I sometimes see when people are walking through their stance, walking through is a poor analogy, but it's transitioning through your stance, is there's a kink here, or there's a pullback and then and go, or some people do this and go, and there's so many breaks in your kinetic chain. So when you land in your stance, you'll never feel connected. There'll be something that gives. So Newton's law has a lot to do with it, the gravity theory. So when I'm pushing off the floor, what's happening in return is the floor's pushing me. I push, the floor pushes me. So that's what happens. When you first learn karate, what a lot of people try to do with their stance training is walk through their karate. Because walking's what we're good at. So that's where it feels comfortable. And to walk, we lead with our leg, and the body arrives slightly later. In karate, we use the floor to give us the push. Then it's the hips. Okay, the hips arrive first. And we'll do that in a minute of Oizuki. So when we do our Oizuki, the punch is just a message at the end of the transition. Some people like to send their arm first. And then it's just arm. It's just your arm. And you're stepping through. Where is the force coming for your punch? You good?
Ground.
Yeah, it's all coming from the floor. So what we don't want to happen is just be throwing our arm down. Good answer. We want the force to always be coming from the ground. So if I start my kinetic chain here, it's the hip that arrives forwards and then my punch. And there should be a sense of, when your kinetic chain, when you arrive correctly, there should be a sense that we just feel connected to the ground. If we land, and there's kind of this staggering around, we've lost our connection. We've put a kink in our chain somewhere that's made us unfriendly with the technique. So with your left leg forwards, keep your posture. An important thing too to know is, what's my pelvis doing? If my pelvis is pushed back and drops my posture, then this is going to happen. From this position, make sure you're pushing your pelvis forward. When you do that, this muscle here should be tight. If you let that muscle go, posture goes again. So I'm pushing forwards. When you push forward in your stance now, I want you to feel like you're pushing the ground away from you. Pushing the ground away from you to drive forwards. We're not taking off. So I'm not lifting my foot and stepping forward. I'm using the force from my leg and then the force from the ground to push me forward. That's the feeling you want. Start in Shomendachi. So have your hips forwards. So what we don't want to do is start with our hips back and then have to come forwards when we're just training our stance. Give yourself a head start, keep your hips forward, keep your posture straight, use that force from the floor and drive forwards. Some people are coming through the centre, and when they come through the centre, they disconnect. They lose their centre line, so they've lost that connection with their kinetic chain, and then they land back down again. So it's your job to hold your core tight, so that when you move through, we don't do this tilt. Train mindfully, so think about it as you're transitioning, and you'll feel it. Mechanically, if I do this, look where I'm sending some of my energy now. I'm also sending my knee in that direction, and then I'm going to come forwards and put some unnecessary pressure on my knee. So when I move forwards, I want to, as much as possible, leave that foot there. There shouldn't be any movement. Where there's movement, there's interference from your brain. Your brain will think, that's quite hard. Think about that, that's quite hard. But I know how to make it easier, I'll do that. Okay, so the challenge is to unite our body and our brain. Say to your brain, I want my foot to go forwards when I walk forwards. I don't want to send my foot over there. Because instantly, what happened then when I set my foot in that direction, I turned. Rather than maintain my position on just forwards. Be mindful too, this sometimes happens when people come through their stance. There's this destabilization of the pelvic girdle. Another thing to be mindful about is to maintain this position. There should be, if I had a spirit level, I'd put it all on you now, and I'd watch the little bubble inside the spirit level do this as you go forwards, rather than it just stay center. So your pelvic girdle is a bit like when we fly a plane, and we're looking for that horizon line. We want the pelvic girdle to be dead center of that horizon line. So be mindful now when you're stepping backwards about where your energy goes. If I lean forwards to push off, I've disconnected. The second I lean forward, I've disconnected. I want to keep my back straight. Push. Exactly the same, but in reverse of going forwards. So when I go forwards, I push the floor away from me, which sends my foot forwards. Here, I'm pushing the floor away from me, which brings in my core, activates my core, so I can pull back without that momentum shift. When you look forwards, you're disconnected. So where possible, you want those heels to stay on the floor. Sometimes, depending on your ankle flexibility, that might mean shortening your stance. If you've got flexible ankles, then use them. If you can't get your heel down, shorten your stance until you can. Because the key, the foundation of your karate is your connection, your connectivity, and your kinetic chain. If you can't build that force into your karate, everything else will fail. So the reason why we spend more time than anything on our basic training is because often our structure is wrong. And what you don't want to do is get to your black belt and have an inability to connect with your body correctly. Because the second you get paired up with somebody strong, you will crumble. Your structure will have no foundation. Your kion, your basics, are one of the most important parts of your karate, if not the most important part of your karate. So those basic things, the things, we maybe haven't laboured enough yet in this dojo that will help your karate to establish roots are your key of the basics. They will make your kata better, they will make your kumite better. They will challenge you more than any other part of karate. The other stuff, fancy stuff, the stuff we all can't wait to do, it's nothing without a foundation. Okay, so if a tree has roots, it also needs branches. So we have an ability to grow up towards the sky, but without the roots, the tree will eventually fall over. So the roots are an important, essential part of your training. Forward minded upright, I'm not falling into my stance. I am pushing from the floor. I'm going to show you something that will demonstrate how the brain can affect the body. What do you really love more? Call of Duty. Okay, so Anurin loves Call of Duty. So I'm going to say to Anurin, do you love Call of Duty? Okay, his brain agrees. What don't you like? Something you really don't like. Vegetables. When I ask you, do you like vegetables? Say yes. Okay? Do you like vegetables? Yes. Okay? So this is pardon? Built-in lie detector. Built-in lie detector. Absolutely 100% is. Do you love your partner? Yeah. Okay. Do you... Oh, you say yes to every single question. Would you like to kiss a slug?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just about that. Send that for me. I'm trying to demonstrate how your brain can lie to you, but your body can't. So sometimes when you're, don't worry about it. This is when the magic happens, when you start bursting into flames. I'm trying to demonstrate that sometimes our brains think in something to the point that it's affecting our body. Kinesiology. Okay, left side forward, Gedambarai. Mike. And back. Think about where the Gedambarai starts. The Gedambarai starts on the shoulder. So some of you are just falling forward and not making any kind of preparation. A couple of things to think about. We prepare, we drive off the floor, our hips go forward, the block comes forward. Start the block here. Block comes here. 1, 2. So this is what I'm seeing now. There's a little bit of a bounce. When we're driving forwards, we're not driving up. So I'm going to exaggerate it, but this is what I'm seeing in some of you now. You're going forwards, and because you're pushing off the back, you're going up and down. Another thing to think about is that maintaining of your height. So I'm pushing forwards, I'm not pushing up and forwards, because that's when we get this up and down, up and down. You use your plyometrics to push forwards, not up. Because the second you go up, I've disconnected. I'm going to come down. Just through your stance. There's also, because some of you are thinking so hard about this, there's also a little bit of sinking down and going up. You're sinking down and going up. Our legs at this point are doing nothing. This is the one person in charge. Okay, this is the foreman. That one's telling everything else what's happening. Nothing else happening into it. There's no distribution of weight in the stance this way. I'll lead through.